So this month, we've been reflecting on spirit and journey as our focusing themes. We've looked at how the inward journey can help us feel a deeper connection to all that we behold. And then last week, we were invited by the earth's journey around the sun to consider that our spirits are products of our journeying planet. This week, I want to invite you to reflect with me on the ultimate, hoped-for end to a journey, the Promised Land, a topic most resonant with our current circumstances at MVUU. I bring you good news. No, I'm not going to announce a mortgage. Not today. But have faith. There is a promised land. It is awaiting our arrival. It's just there. Not far at all. So have faith. There's a promised land. Indeed, there's more than one. For us, there's more than one. In this case, it's a matter of scale. Have faith. The primary promised land is the big scale. It's the natural world. We were given life on this living planet, and you could fill in by whom we were giving life as you will. Maybe it's the world itself. But that is the primary promised land. And then we here at MVUU also have a congregational promised land, the new home thing. Have faith. Faith is essential because in both cases, the earth and our congregation, the first and most important relationship to the promised land is spiritual. Species devastation, hard pill budgets, and cultural anxiety are not the first and most important. Howsoever critical, they are merely symptoms, the outward show of a spiritual forgetting and a subsequent loss of connection. So how do we reconnect? Well, we might remember that, like all promised lands before it, ours is both freely given and comes with strings. The land depends on the promise, and the strings attached are part of the promise. Arrival depends on behavior, spiritual behavior specifically. You see, ultimately, the promised land isn't actually a place. It's a way of being. A way of being whose implied distance relegates it to hope in an idea, the promised land. But do not be mistaken. Ideas are worth having hope in. Have faith. As something promised, the promised land is assured. Yet it also implies a not yet quality. And that's kind of tricky. The promised land is always a distance away, even as in the case of the earth, it's right beneath our feet. Because of that sense of distance, that sense of lure and estrangement, the promised land implies a journey, because we're not there yet, with an expected end, the promised land. And a journey, well, that's just a story with sweat and muscle on it. Our quest for our congregational promised land, the journey we are currently undertaking, this will someday be a story. You are sitting in a story right now. In time, it will become a kind of fairy tale, a legend within the Mountain Vista community. Have faith. There will be a resolution. And at that time, after the resolution, you will be able to look back on our story and ponder, what was my role? Who might each of us have been in the story of our journey to the promised land? The shepherd, the trickster, the earnest companion, the royal adventurer, the humble craftsperson. There will likely be these or similar roles in the telling of this tale once we arrive at the promised land. In fact, why wait? We are able to do this even now. You see, some stories are meant to be read by a reader who knows the ending of the story before it begins. And we know how this story ends. Reading our story, then, is sort of like reading the Gospels of the Christian Bible. Everyone who's ever read those stories knows how they end before they begin. And that changes how you read them, how you participate with them. Never has there been a person who was like, wait, Jesus got betrayed and arrested? Surely he'll escape. Oh, he got convicted and sentenced to death? Surely his super team will bust him out. Wait, he's getting tortured and put on a cross? Oh, surely his Father and God will, what? He's dead? This can't be, wait, he's coming back to life now? I am stunned by this shocking twist of events. That's never happened. Nobody has ever read the Gospels in that way. All events in those stories are read knowing the ending, ministering to the oppressed, healing the sick, preaching of upturning the status quo against the empire. Knowing all of these stories by the hero of that tale adds color and poignancy to all of his adventures leading up to the end. And the promised land motif is like that too. As a promised land, it is a fait accompli. It is promised. The finding of the promised land is the resolution to our tale. It is part of the fabric of the journey, for it is bound to happen. So we can read our own tale already knowing the end. We find our home. But we can only do that. It only happens for us. We only find our home if we are in relationship to the whole tale, specifically the resolution. We find our home. The promised land only happens if you believe it will. And believing it will, you can know that it already is. It already exists as a part of this story. The promised land is one of those features of the universe that only comes about if you believe it, only appears when you behold it, only manifests if you have faith. So am I saying that our congregational promised land will suddenly appear if we just believe it? Am I saying that the more beautiful world will reforest itself as a function of our faith? No. Yes. What is true is that neither promised land will occur if we don't believe it. I can say that with abundant confidence and a minimum of quackery. If we don't believe that there is a promised land out there in here, then it will not happen. It cannot. I am saying that our attitudes, much like that of the woodcutter, determines our perception of not only each other and the world, but of what is possible. Our belief. Remember, the promised land is not a place. Or if it is a place, it is a place only in that it is a function of something deeper. The promised land is not a place, but a circumstance brought about by faith in its assuredness and a living into the spiritual conditions that bring it about. Those spiritual conditions that bring it about are the promised land. For us, that means a deep commitment and investigation of and living into and through our covenant and principles. Those are the strings attached to our promised land. The strings are not only part of the promise, in fact, they are the promise. Both scales, the macro and the immediate scales of the promised land, manifest not as a place, but as a way of being, of knowing that I am you and you are of me. And if not, like knowing, if you don't feel that right now, then you can imagine it. You can imagine it as lived so that you can then practice doing so. That is faith. In the end, the promised land is dependent on faith in the promised land. Our promised land is not a new home. That will be a symptom of our faith. Our promised land is the beloved community that holds the world and all beings in it in love and joy. And from this perspective, we might speculate that maybe the building is waiting on us to be the community that deserves it. Which means that maybe it is waiting on us to believe we deserve it. Because that means living into our covenant and our principles, and beyond that, to the connection that they point to, as though they were the skin through which we feel the world. live our covenant and principles as though they were the skin through which we experience the world until we are the proof that the truth is love. A more beautiful world will not be brought about until love is given primacy. Our new home is not the promised land, love is. Love is the promised land. It is now and eternal if you believe it. And the only way to know love is to share it. You can be loved and not know it. But when you feel it from within you, when you share it, remember for a moment what love feels like. Remember your last sensation of overwhelming love. That memory is in your body. I want you to bring that memory to the surface of your body and wear it so all the world is engaged by you on that level. When we do that, we will have found the promised land, and the promised land will reveal itself in all ways. It will feel like the whole damn world is a kick-ass, heel-stomping, gospel hoedown, and you're in it and happy to see all who are likewise. In fact, George and Kimberly, please come back up here, won't you? The promised land sounds great, right? So how do we get it? We practice. You've got to practice. For instance, lately, I've been walking around and thinking and imagining. I see a guy in the parking lot. He looks kind of strange, and that's my first thought. My second thought is, no, I am of you, and you are of me. And in that instant, my relationship with that stranger who doesn't know that I'm doing this to him changes. And then I start to do that all around me. And my relationship with my whole environment changes. So that's my personal practice right now. It's a start, and you might have another one. Beyond that, have faith. Have faith. Have faith. Imagine that we have found our future home. Right now. Imagine that we have found our future home. Know it is going to happen. Know it is happening. It will and has and is, because we are living into the land we promise, which is nothing less than our covenant and principles. So imagine yourself wearing our covenant and principles as a skin, living into them so thoroughly they are reshaping our lives, our perspective, and thus the whole world. Imagine that. Imagine it. And have faith. With that resolution secured, with deep belief that the beloved community is real and a more beautiful world is here, waiting to be beheld as a function of our faith in covenant and love. How might that change your expectation of an encounter with an adversary or a friend, or with me, or with the person across the room, with this practice, with this congregation as a collective of individuals, with the air and light through which you walk? How might that change your encounter with a wildflower or a stranger in the store? The not yet is now for those who can see it, for it is the resolution of the tale that we are in. All we have to do is believe it and be it and then share it. Wear our promises, our covenant and principles like a skin, like a body our soul inhabits, to sense the connection our promises point to. The promised land is here. It's here. It's love. Share it. Share it in a song. Just sing it. You got some lyrics in your order of service. Why don't you sing it once through, and then we'll join you.
Ain't no one that can save me. Ain't no one can enslave me. Ain't no kith or kin that can change the shape my soul is in. There ain't nobody here who can cause me pain or raise my fear, 'cause I've got only love to share. If you're looking for truth, I'm proof you'll find it there. So 1, 2, 3. Ain't no one that can save me. Ain't no one can enslave me. Ain't no kith or kin that can change the shape my soul is in. Ain't there anybody here who can cause me pain or raise my fear, 'cause I only got love to share. If you're looking for proof, I'm sure you'll find it there. One more time. And 1, 2, 3. Ain't no one that can save me. Ain't no one can enslave me. Ain't no kith or kin that can change the shape my soul is in. There ain't nobody here who can cause me pain or raise my fear, as I got only love to share. If you're looking for truth, I'm proof you'll find it there. If you're looking for truth, I'm proof you'll find it there. If you're looking for truth, I'm proof you'll find it there.
Please remain standing for the benediction as we leave this sacred time and place that we've created together.